Welcome to episode 322 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the first win of the season edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew, recovering from back spasms. Not as tough as Chris Bell, obviously, but having to go and grind out my existence here. But I would be remiss if, of course, I didn't celebrate my good friend and co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, the Firecracker 400 champion, computer genius, a gentleman and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. Congratulations, brother. You join the likes of AJ Foyt, Tony Stewart, Dale Earnhardt Jr. We're already in the same class as AJ Foyt in a sense with your Indy 500 victory, but now you join him in a stock car as well. So now you've got a new intro. So congratulations on that. Now you just have to keep on adding on these other things. It might get so long. It might be like that Tiger Woods intro from 2000 where Phil Mickelson went and said, all right, that's enough. But how's it going, man?
Doing good. Yeah, sorry. No, but it's a lot of accolades there. I mean, second place in the Daytona 24 hours last year too. So, there's a lot of accolades there, which I think AJ Foyt, I think he's won that race too. So yeah, might be getting up there with him. So now you actually have to win it though. But it was good. We'll get into it later, but yeah, Thursday night ran the iRacing Firecracker 400 and won. So in the 87 car. So yeah, I really liked it, and first win of the year for me too in iRacing, on the oval side at least. So yeah, really excited about that. But of course, your boy Chase Briscoe winning for the first time this year. Of course, man, I was expecting you to blow me up and Joe on the group chat that we had, but you didn't say anything. I was like, man, where's this guy at? But no, I'm glad for you, man. Chase Briscoe, of course, winning, getting in the win column first time. Good stuff. And it's on the 4th of July too. Or weekend. So, that's good. So, a lot of racing to get into. So yeah, ready to get into it.
Yeah. And Pato going and getting the win earlier in the day, while I was basically in traction here on the couch. I can go, and this is the Darlington car right over here. So now I have to go and buy myself a win from Chicago. I had it was one of those days. I don't know. Like there's some of these days where I have that feeling that he has a chance to win, and that was one of those days. So we'll talk about Briscoe going out there, holding off Seabell to get in the win column, move himself in the eighth in points. There's a lot of argy-bargy going on behind those two guys and all the Toyotas, it seems. SVG and Austin Hills, battle of rugby players and offensive linemen in the NFL. For that battle, Carson Hocevar's revolving list of drivers that he's pissed off landed on Zane Smith, and Zane Smith, I think, for at least based on what Dale Jr. said, the fourth time attempting to wreck him, and finally did, but then wrecked himself like Miss Hummer. So we'll talk about that, and maybe what NASCAR might have to do in regards to the likes of SVG, who's gotten some heat for his driving. The fact that Austin Hill, he's a tool and always has been. Hocevar, he's popular with the Reddit crowd or with the TikTok crowd or whoever crowd it is. He's got a fan base, but he's basically wrecked everybody in the garage at some point. So it's a case of he's in the top 10 in points, in part because Chris Gabehart brought all those Joe Gibbs secrets over there. But, and they get Hendrick equipped. They're Hendrick light. So when you add all those things together, he doesn't need to get his shit wrecked. But because he's ran over everybody in the garage, if people want to start teeing off on him like they're a golf ball and Scotty Scheffler's about to hit his driver, then it's not really all that shocking. We'll get into all that. We'll get into Buckshot Jones beating William Clyde Elliott II at Chicago in a rained out or rain delayed O'Reilly race. Charles Leclerc going out and winning the British Grand Prix, getting his first win of 2026, a couple weeks after Lewis went out there and got his first win for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc going and getting the 250th win in the World Championship, Formula One World Championship for Ferrari. Amazing feat for the Scuderia. Issues for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. His points lead now cut down to basically a race, so we'll get into all that. We'll talk about Pato O'Ward passing Christian Lundgaard to get his first win in the IndyCars in 2026 at Mid-Ohio, and talk about, and that'll probably be a talking point that we'll have plenty to say in regards to what McLaren has done in silly season. Something that I never thought I'd ever see happen is happening. And a driver who's performing at a very high level now is a free agent. Plenty going on in regards to the free agency and silly season in IndyCar. Roundup busy, but in terms of all the winners, F2 and F3 at Silverstone and F1 Academy. Formula E was in Shanghai. Indy NXT saw a familiar surname in Victory Lane. There, both races. MotoGP, a lot of silly season news going on over there. They'll be at the Sachsenring. WEC will be back after Le Mans with their break they had, and now they'll be at Sao Paulo for the 6 hours of Brazil. Supercars will be at Townsville. IMSA, the LMP2 and GT categories will be at Mosport. And World Superbikes will be back at Donington after their summer break. Cup and O'Reilly series will be at Atlanta this weekend, which means the return of the Tate Fogelman algorithm. So we'll see what that picks. The track that has become, or what everyone seems to want to have happen, is the most entertaining track on the circuit. I kind of disagree when it causes as much carnage, but that's beside the point. We'll get into Josh's sim segment and also Lime Rock for trucks for that Boar Fest. Sim segment for Josh talking about the Firecracker 400, and then we'll call it a day. So, yeah, I mean, part of the reason why I was muted was because of my back issues. Came up on Friday just before I was getting ready to go to the doctor, and then end up basically not being able to walk around. Like, I walked around like an old man. Went through 4th of July that way. Then laid on the couch on Sunday during the IndyCar race. That helped a little bit, and then was able to kind of get in a much better position for the Cup race. And yeah, I mean, for Briscoe, for Toyota in general, they went out there and had their way with the field in the Euro 400. They started the race. They were doing a prime time slot. You had 28 lead changes amongst 13 drivers. So you're, in that sense, the Gen 7 car showing capabilities on the 1.5 mile racetracks, which is the point, I think, of one of the reasons why they made the car the way they did it. You had Hamlin, who started on pole at 30 laps. William Byron started 10th, won both stages. So solid points day for him. Most of the top, going all the way through the first 13 drivers in the finishing order, there was only one two of them that didn't get a stage point at all. And that was Corey Heim in 9th and Joey Logano in 12th. We'll go through the running order here before we move forward. Chase Briscoe getting his 6th career victory. His first on a 1.5 mile racetrack, cookie cutter. Led 51 laps, including the last 46. I believe there. 40 or 45 laps there, 45. So, did that. Christopher Bell was 2nd, Hamlin 3rd, so Gibbs 1, 2, 3. Hendrick then takes the next 2 spots with William Byron and Alex Bowman, who was the last winner at Chicagoland Speedway until Sunday. Bubba Wallace running a Space Jam car, led 35 laps, finished 6th. YRB is Bestie 7th and Best Ford. Keebler Gibbs 8th, Corey Heim 9th, Riley Herbst, a top 10 finish for him. William Clyde Elliott II was 11th. I mentioned Logano. Cindric 13th. Gilliland led a lap, finished 16th. Chris Buescher was a lap down in 19th. And John Hunter Nemechek 23rd. Got Prix, or no, that didn't Prix. Cold Custard led 2 laps, finished 31st. Larson finished 2nd in stage 1, but then spun. Had to battle back after that, had damage, dragged the diffuser and front valence off, having to come back to pit road. Finished 35th. Tyler Reddick had a rock or something go through the radiator and basically took all the coolant and stuff out of it, so blew the thing up essentially. Finished 36th, losing more ground in the point standings. Hank Hill got sent by SVG in turn 3, and probably shortened his neck an inch in the process. Connor Zilich, lap 1, back straightaway, destroyed the front end. Josh, you put it in here as the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad season. That's apropos for what has been a nightmare for one of the most talented drivers to come into the Cup Series in recent memory. And it has a lot of vibes of Jeff Gordon in 1993, because he wrecked, I think, 15 or 16 cars that year. But at least he was like somewhat competitive to the point when he ran, he was able to run out races that he finished somewhere in like the top 15 in points, I think 16, somewhere around there, his rookie year. Connor Zilich is going to be lucky to get out of the top 30 in points at the rate that he's going, especially with the amount of just like last place finishes that he's having. I mean, it took him, 12, 13 races to pass Cody Ware. That's how bad his season has been. When you can't even beat the 51 car on a per week basis, that's saying a lot of bad. Either you're just running your straight trash, or you have the worst luck in the world. There's some aspects of both there, but we'll bring it back to somebody who had a bad start to the year himself and had a bunch of those last place finishes or really further back finishes. Briscoe has been talking about trying to get back in top 5, top 6 in points, which is that zone that they keep on talking about amongst whichever broadcast group there is. Junebug, Harvick, you need to be in the top 6 in points. Well, now Chase Briscoe, after all of those bad finishes, has a little bit of momentum these last couple of weeks. I was thinking about it. It reminds me of Tony when he won his championships, especially in 2005. He was basically not he was not in the mix per se at the start of the 2005 season. They had a test at Michigan early in June. They go there, finish second to Biffle, God rest his soul, and take off from there, win Snoroma, win Daytona on a rain delay, win 5 races out of like 5 or out of 7 races, wins Indianapolis, wins Watkins Glen, wins New Hampshire, and basically sets himself up after Indianapolis with the points lead and essentially has to run it out, has to battle all the Roush cars off by himself, and does that to get that second championship. There's vibes of that in what I feel with the way Briscoe's running, but I mean, honestly, it was a Toyota benefit. Byron did go out there and get his stage wins, and this is a instance where it's like I think the tide for him is turning. I think Larson has shown flashes more on a more regular basis, but hit or miss. Of course, he spins himself out on his own and basically loses any chance to get a decent finish. But Byron held up his part. The 48 taking a step forward recent weeks. Of course, Bowman racing for a seat. Rumors, abound, whether it's Corey Day, whether it's Carson Osavar, whoever might be in play there. So the Chevys are coming around, especially the Hendrick cars, which isn't a surprise. The Fords, the best Fords being the Penske's, are really Ryan Blaney. Not that surprising. The Roush cars qualified well, but then didn't race well. Prix lost a bunch of ground because he got into that wreck on the first lap. And so, I mean, a lot to look at there, Josh. But I mean, for Briscoe, for Gibbs, and for Toyota, showing their prowess here and their advantage that they have. And I mean, Chris Bell said that you could train a monkey to drive our cars and win. And I wouldn't go that far. There's certain things we could train a monkey to do. But in terms of driving these cars, the cars that the likes of Gibbs, 2311, and even Legacy have, you need to be maximizing this right now, because I feel like come 2027, it isn't going to be the same deal. I feel like Chevrolet is going to have more data. They're going to be ready. Ford's going to have a new body. And Ford's been running dog crap most of the year outside of Ryan Blaney and at times Chris Buescher. They're not going to want to keep being the butt end of this deal. So need to take advantage of it when you have it. Briscoe is turning that, moving forward, and maybe building that momentum up in the summer to try and have that run ready when the chase starts in September, and getting himself in a good position in points as well to have some extra bonus points.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a lot there, but yeah, I mean, for Briscoe, he's been running well as of late. Of course, win here on Sunday, and of course, last week at Sonoma's second place finish, running well and up front. Of course, Nashville was up there, had an opportunity at the end as well, right? And yeah, it's been kind of a rough go the first quarter of the season here, where he didn't really have a lot going on. Tons of last place finishes at Daytona, at Coda, Phoenix. Just really bad luck to start off the year. But now he's slowly climbed back up, and could be on like I said, in a position to where they can challenge for that top 6 that like the media keeps talking about, to be in that chase competitiveness spot, I guess, the sweet spot to be competitive for the championship there. So yeah, I mean, for him, I mean, this race, like, they had a really good car. He did hit the wall though, kind of broke a toe link there at the end of the race, but they were able to make a adjustment on the pit stop, tighten it up for him to account for that damage and everything, and then he was able to get through traffic enough to be able to pull off the win over Christopher Bell. Bell was coming there at the end, definitely had a lot more speed. I honestly thought that coming to 2 laps to go there, Christopher Bell looked like he was going to make the move on Chase Briscoe, but just wasn't able to get around him quite enough to be able to complete a pass. And Chase Briscoe, of course, lots of defensive lines there at the end, starting to take his line away and all that stuff. And Bell last lap, turn 1 and 2, kind of followed Chase Briscoe into the corner. I don't know if it was just because he felt like his car was working there better in the middle lower end of turn 1 and 2. But I was telling a buddy about this. If I were Bell on that last lap, I probably would have gone to the high side, closer to the wall on turn 1 and 2. Of course, I mean, I guess Briscoe could have driven a bit more defensive and covered the spot, but I feel like with the way that the top side works, you can get some momentum off of the top line, turn 1 and 2, and then swing to the bottom in turn 3 and 4 there to complete the move there. So for Briscoe, of course, it's been interesting year, but now look like he could be peaking at the right time as they get closer to the chase cutoff. And same for Christopher Bell too. Bell's had some bad luck, but last couple of weeks has done a lot better after the stretch that he had where he was running poor or had poor finishes despite running well. So for Bell, I mean, I think he's probably going to be close to a win soon. Wouldn't be surprised some of these upcoming races here, given how well he's ran, could be up for a win at some point. So we'll see for Bell what he can do here. I mean, look at the All-Star race a couple years ago, won that, could win here as they go to North Wilkesboro a couple weeks here, and the first points race there since 1996. So that could be an opportunity for Bell. Of course, Denny, won the pole, led the first couple of laps there, was up front generally for most of it, and definitely had an opportunity. But I think he missed the corner and lost like 4 seconds late in the going there. So took himself out of the opportunity for a win. But another third place finish, which is what he needs to continue to build the gap between him and the guy that he owns the car for, and Tyler Reddick, of course. Tyler Reddick finishing 36th, losing several laps, making repairs behind the wall. So, Reddick, beginning the season's hot start, won tons of races, 5 races this year. Of course, still been doing, really well for the most part. But as soon as the summer hit, it seems like they've really, really cooled off. As soon as they had that accident at Michigan, just kind of, and Denny kept winning, kind of just changed things for that team, and didn't do well at San Diego, of course. He was running in San Diego, but then flat tire there last lap. Sonoma last week, another issue. Now here, another issue at Chicago. So just shows, just as much as, you can win 3 races in a row, you can also just have a bad set of races. And we talked about this like back, in the spring, like, jumped out to big lead here and looked like, okay, this is going to be Tyler Reddick, kind of running the table this whole year. But then now he's had a bad stretch of races here over the last month or so here in the Cup Series. So it's going to be interesting now. Now he's got a 45-point gap to Denny, his owner. So Denny now, of course, been chasing the whole year. Now he's got the points lead firmly in his hand here. So Denny's now past the road courses and everything. So now he can kind of focus in on these next handful of weeks here in the Cup Series. Of course, Atlanta still kind of iffy at Denny at Atlanta and North Wilkesboro. Could be up there in Indianapolis, could be up front. So, yeah, these next couple of weeks for Denny Hamlin's going to be critical for him to keep the points lead if he wants to have that 25-point advantage once the chase starts. So that's going to be pretty crucial there as well. So, we'll see how he's able to continue rolling with the momentum that he has now. Of course, William Byron, of course, led the most laps, ran up front. We haven't really seen William Byron, be up front that much this year. Won the 2 stages there, so definitely beginning to turn in the positive direction for William Byron. Same for Alex Bowman, of course. I think, for Bowman, probably was in that kind of same direction as well, but the problem is he's had a incomplete season due to the issues that he had with his health earlier this year, and just the poor start that he had with some of his own bad luck that kind of just buried him there. So, it's good to see him that he's running up front. Of course, you mentioned kind of future might be up in the air, and it seems like it's up to him, really. Kind of seems like if he wants to keep going, it's up to him. But gotta imagine he probably won't be in the Cup Series for too much longer because I think just the issues that he's had over the years, I think have kind of taken a toll on him, on his health and everything, and could see him maybe race for another year or two until Hendrick decides that they're guy like Corey Day, or even somebody like Raja Karuth potentially, like if they're ready to go up to the Cup Series. I think Bowman probably be the guy to let him slide there. So we'll see what happens there. Bubba Wallace led tons of laps as well, was up there up in the lead, making moves, passing Ryan Blaney, saying "come on and jam" to his boy there. So that was pretty funny. But Bubba kind of turning things around. Now it seems like he's kind of the guy right now at 23-11, because Tyler Reddick, of course, has been the guy, but now Bubba Wallace starting to put in solid finishes here in the last handful of weeks. They've had a ton of bad luck, but Michigan, they had 3rd place finish. They finished 2nd at San Diego, and Chicago. They're top 10 lead laps and stuff, so they're starting to turn around here, and they're still buried a little bit, 10th, 12th in points, but he's been a bit more consistent than Tyler Reddick has been recently. So we'll see if he's able to kind of climb up there into that discussion of who can be up there for that kind of bubble where we think that drivers will be competitive here. So that's part of it. And then on the flip side, talked about Kyle Larson last week possibly winning this race. I mean, had good practice speed and everything, but then good qualifying speed, and they were up there. And I thought maybe short run, at the end, possible green white checkered or late caution, if he's up there, could have the pace to kind of fire off and potentially win. But kind of overstepped the bounds there off of turn 4. It spun out, and as soon as he hit the grass, basically just killed his opportunity there and scraped the underneath of the car, and kind of just changed his whole night there. So just never was able to recover from that. We'll see Larson easily able to. I mean, I think he's him and Byron probably close to getting a win there. So it wouldn't be surprising here in the next couple of weeks. Indianapolis is coming up. We've already seen him win that race before, so could be an opportunity for him next couple of weeks. But I mean, the other thing from this race, I mean, you talked about Connor Zilic there. I mean, I came up with that, kind of borrowing from that children's book Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, and it certainly has been that of a kind of a season for Connor Zilic there. And tough result after seemingly him getting a good finish at Sonoma last week, following that up first top 10 in his Cup career, 7th, and following that up with a crash on the very first lap there, not even completing a lap. So really, really bad season here for Connor, and unfortunate there because we know what he's capable of doing. We saw it in the O'Reilly race on Saturday night, what he was able to do. we know what he can do. So a huge learning period here for Connor Zilic, and hopefully doesn't take too much of it, and he can be secure in knowing that he'll be around in the Cup Series for many more years. So hopefully he can put it together. So yeah, it's pretty unfortunate there. But yeah, the other thing from this, of course, SVG cleaning out Austin Hill there. I mean, not surprising to see that, honestly. Austin Hill, we know how he kind of races and everything, and they've got a bit of history. Go back to Pocono, of course. They got into it there. San Diego, of course, overshot the turn one and collected Connor Zilic and SVG there. So that was really bad. I mean, not intentional there, but of course, just bad form there by Hill and Austin Hill. I mean, SVG's just had enough of it and just cleaned him out there. So of course, Hill got into him on turn two after caution there. So we'll see what NASCAR decides to do there. The exchange there, the spotter calling him Van Guggenheimer. I mean, I think now you got to lean into that now. So, I mean, that's actually a funny nickname, but lean into that now and just use that against Hill there. So, yeah, that's pretty funny. But I mean, it goes back to even further back. I mean, go back to 2024. Remember Coda? Hill used up SVG turn one at Coda on late restart there, and then SVG tried to return the favor there and on that final lap there, and that led to Kyle Larson winning that race. And then remember Sonoma later that year, SVG kind of used him up there turn 1 and 2 at Sonoma, and then did the burnouts in front of him on the cooldown lap there. So yeah, I mean, they're both pretty big guys there. I mean, surprised if they got into it. I mean, pretty sure SVG, we've heard him use this term called a wobbler there to refer to guys he doesn't like, whatever. So he probably does think that Austin Hill's a bit of a wobbler there. So that's I like how SVG just is just calm and just says, it's a bit of a wobbler there, so I like that. So we'll see what that looks like here in the next couple of weeks, if they turn into a bit of rivalry here, and could they come out with penalties? I don't know, hopefully not, and just let them self-police and handle it on the racetrack there. And I guess last thing, of course, Toyota versus the rest of the field. I mean, Toyota's really investing in the field right now. They've started to improve legacy there, and they're trying to get them the same engineering quality or development that Joe Gibbs and 2311 are, and that's why you're seeing the increased results there from the legacy guys the last couple of weeks. So not surprising that they're all kind of doing well right now. Toyota's definitely valuing their teams in the Cup Series. Ford, on the other hand, of course, looks like nobody's working together there, and you're seeing kind of Penske kind of floating kind of now. Blaney's the only one doing anything right now. RFK, still hasn't really quite taken that next step yet, but you're seeing flashes of potential there every now and then, but they're not completely consistent. And then everybody else is just out to lunch there. So I mean, I was talking about it with a friend earlier today. I mean, I think Ford just they're just going all in on Formula One right now in their engine program there, and I think they're not quite as not quite as focused on NASCAR as they are with sports cars and F1. So that's probably reflective of that. So two sides of the same coin there, with Toyota investing, seeming like trying to make sure that everybody's getting help, and Ford's just not really helping there. So and you see it in the truck and the Xfinity or the O'Reilly series. Nobody in the O'Reilly series are in the Ford, and the truck series, hardly any competitive truck teams outside of FRM and I guess maybe Thor Sport. So yeah, seeing kind of how Ford is valuing NASCAR for sure right now. But yeah, I mean, it was a great race. I think great return race to Chicagoland, and hopefully they make the right choice. I mean, they're trying to negotiate with Chicago, the city, for the street course race. But I mean, honestly, just keep it on the oval. I mean, I know there are logistics problems and stuff there. I mean, there was a lot of fans pulling in for this race, and there's lots of traffic and all that stuff. But I mean, the race itself, really good. So I'd just keep it at Chicagoland.
I always enjoy, or I say always, I think for a lot of years, I enjoyed Chicago. I think probably because Tony was good there. Um, Brad was good there in his Penske days. And the way that this car is, I mean, echoing what you're saying, Josh, I mean, it makes sense for them to race there. Do you keep it on July 4th weekend? It seems like they had a really good turnout this past weekend. So I know that, what do you call Ben Kennedy and company and SOD, they don't seem to have date equity in play. The way they keep on moving around all these dates, especially on the Northeast. But I mean, there's something to be said about there being certain dates that you can guarantee certain races on. They moved Daytona away from July the 4th. That's for, whatever reason. I think now that you're back to this full chase, 26 and then a reset and then 10 races, it's probably a time to go and move it back to July the 4th. If you want to have that kind of randomness at the end of the season, make Atlanta the last race of the regular season. Yeah, that's a date equity kind of deal, but I would say make that your last race. Put Daytona back to have its traditional spots. Have Darlington. I don't need the second race. Have them have the Southern 500. That would be the first race of the chase. You go and you build equity with Charlotte. With now you have 2 oval races again. Fine. Have one in the playoff. Of course, have the Coke 600. You know where that's going to be. There's value to that. And I think Chicagoland, the way this car is, it's not a great car, but it raced well on Sunday, and I was entertained. And you had strategy there. You had a long green flag run there, the last segment, and pit stops. And the 19 team, it connects to last year as well. When those guys were on and they were nailing their pit stops, they were gaining chase spots every single pit stop. And then they gave him an opportunity on a choose to get to the outside line. He's shooting the moon on the outside. It was the same pattern. It was the same strat, the same ways, those things, all of that worked. That's why he won 3 races last year. That's why he was in the final 4. They can continue that trend. That is a positive trend, and especially talking about how Reddick is scuffling and has been for a month at least. Dennis going out there and winning a lot, putting pressure on his franchise guy. That's his words. He has 2 franchise guys now, and the most polarizing driver, intentionally, unintentionally. So he's got 3 people talk about. But for Hamlin, he wants that title. He knows he has this year and next year before Brent Cruz probably takes over that car. So he wants to go and get it done. So we'll see what happens with that. Point standings, Josh mentioned it, 44-point lead for Denny Hamlin. Blaney is only 24 points at a Keebler. Keebler doing the William Byron 1-1 race and kind of just lingers in the top 10, gets top 10s every week. So goes out there and gets the job done that way. In terms, he has 12 top 10 finishes. He's tied for second in the amount of top 10s with Hamlin and Reddick. Blaney has the most top 10 finishes on the circuit. Then you have Clyde, who and Larson are separated by a point. They're 5th and 6th. Buescher is 3 points out of Briscoe. And you got Hocevar in there. I mean, you have 23 and 40, 63. So, yeah, I mean, basically from 7th through 12th is a pod there. Busher, Briscoe, Hocevar, Bell, rounding out your top 10, Suarez and Byron. Then you have Bubba kind of in no man's land, 13th. Then the battle for the cutoff goes from SVG in 14th. Cindric and Jones currently make up the 16. Prix is 4 points behind Eric Jones. Then you have 16 points to Logano and Allmendinger. And then 19 points to Keselowski. You can probably extend it out to McDowell and Chastain, and I think that's really where that's the end. Because that's like 62 points. Ross Chastain is behind SVG. So that's really where you're at in terms of who's probably got a chance to make it in. Zane Smith would need to turn some things around. He has 6 top 10 finishes this year. But he's in 23rd and he lost some ground. Herbst is only a point behind him. We know he's probably going to go to Legacy next year with his money. They're Gilliland and you got some others. And from there, Bowman 29th in points. Of course, he's missed 4 races. So if you're somebody behind him that has run every race, I'd probably be pretty embarrassed. Of course, Josh Berry doesn't have a job next year. Gagson might not have a job in Cup. Dillon, we don't know. Custer, I mean, Haas shouldn't really be out there anyways. They suck. Zilich we talked about, and then Cody Ware. All right, so let us move over to the O'Reilly Series. Cuervo 300, rain delayed, but we're able to get the race in. Buckshot Jones getting his 8th career victory. Didn't get that many stage points. Only led 12 laps, started 29th, but was able to go out there, get that win, making that pass late on William Clyde Elliott II. Only kind of asserted himself around lap 140, and it was basically him and Elliott with Taylor Gray and Sieg just sneaking in there. Buckshot Jones over Elliott. Jesse Love finished second in both stages. There finished 3rd. Elliott had won a stage, led the most laps. Brent Cruz in 4th. Hank Hill 5th. Allgaier 6th. Gray 7th. Mayer 8th. Cold Custard 9th. And Connor Zilich won stage 1. Led 3rd most laps. Finished 10th. Gray led the 2nd most there. Quapple was 11th. Nick Sanchez getting the 87 car 12th place finish. So good job by him. Retzlaff 14th. Creed got stage points in both stages, finished 16th. Corey Day, stage points in both, but only finished 19th. And then, what is it? Dude Wipes Poopsicle. Wow. That is quite a name. Alfredo 26th. Sawalich 29th. And then Ryan Sieg led 3 laps there. So, yeah, I mean, for Buckshot Jones, he's been in the series for 100 years. He usually figures out a way on, it's either Kansas, Chicagoland, these kind of cookie cutters he wins at, or a short track. So he gets that win, his first of the year, beating Clyde in the 88, the star car there. Doesn't really change much of anything, I don't think, for what we expect in terms of the championship, but maybe it's a momentum shift, but I don't really buy that. Granted, he's only, what is it, 40 out of fourth, 10 behind Hank Hill, in a decent pod battle there from third on back, but Ian Buckshot going and getting that momentum's big for him, big for that organization. The Gibbs team in the O'Reilly series has been scuffling in a sense. You have Sawalich, who's on the outside looking in, or been right on that cusp. Taylor Gray has won a race, but still has struggled at times. And you have Brent Cruz, who's trying to make it in without running the whole regular season. They haven't been as fast as JRM, but on Saturday and early Sunday morning, they were able to get that advantage late when it mattered.
Yeah, just a really good restart for Brandon Jones there, being able to outdrive Chase Elliott there at the end. I mean, that's huge. You're going up against a Cup champion, and the best equipment in the field there in JRM equipment. So for Brandon Jones, like we always talk about, it seems like he just randomly wins at some of these like tracks that are harder to drive. Like he's won at Darlington before, had that win at Kansas, which kind of drives similar to Chicagoland, of course. So yeah, for Brandon Jones, I mean, climbing up in the standings now. So it's been kind of a up and down year for him in the series, and like you said, for Joe Gibbs racing in the O'Reilly series just off for whatever reason. They're just not as good like they are in the Cup series. So you'd expect that Toyota cars would just perform the same, but I guess maybe just different equipment and different quality of drivers and everything. But for Brandon Jones, he's been a full-time O'Reilly guy for a while now. So for him, winning Chicago, good opportunity for him as I guess they get into the Xfinity or the O'Reilly playoffs here. So Chase, so it's going to be just a opportunity for him to, I guess, inch closer. But still, though, I mean, Justin Allgaier, can continue to run and probably win the regular season title. I think they had a pit road speeding penalty, or they had a bad pit stop at one point, and that kind of put them behind. So he ended up still finishing in sixth, which is obviously really good for Allgaier there, continuing to add to his points lead. And yeah, for the other contenders, I mean, Jesse Love had an opportunity there at the end. Looked like, I mean, at first it looked like it would be Taylor Gray winning this race, and it was Brandon Jones and Jesse Love fighting for second with Chase Elliott there. But final caution there, and Love able to pick up third there at the end. Zilich had a handful of laps there, ran out of gas. So unfortunate for Zilich there in his effort to at least have something positive happen in this season here. Still came back to finish 10th there and everything. So yeah, I mean, this race was pretty interesting. I mean, me and Joe group chat were talking about it. Like when it was the Xfinity series, people on Twitter X would just say like the NASCAR Xfinity series. So that's why I texted in our group chat, NASCAR O'Reilly series, because you're seeing lots of good racing here, and the battle between Elliott and Jones there at the end. You kind of saw Elliott drive right up to the bumper of Brandon Jones, I think, while they were fighting for second, and just kind of use the air to get him loose there. So that's kind of the element of the O'Reilly series that I enjoy watching and everything, and compared to the Cup series. But yeah, it was just good racing there. Saturday night, of course, affected by weather and everything, but they were able to get it in. So yeah, I mean, it was a great, like I said, it was a great return back to Chicago Land Speedway here for both series, and hopefully it can continue to stick around here in both series, and show why we need an oval like this rather than street course.
Yeah, I mean, it's these cars, the most versatile of the vehicles they have in the top 3 series, put on a good show, gave the people that were able to stick around their late good opportunity there. And so credit to the drivers and teams of the O'Reilly series being able to go out and give the fans what they want. And we'll see as we go along. I mean, Allgaier, when he wasn't in the best position or didn't have the best of it, was still able to go out there and earn some solid points. Of course, he's locked in. He's going to win the regular season title. He's got a near 200-point lead. So he's solid. They're building for the chase. Love has a 29-point lead on Corey Day. Creed is 30 points back of Love there, and then 30 ahead of Hank Hill, 40 ahead of Buckshot Jones, 43 ahead of Carson Quapple. So that's really from, from Creed to Quapple is where that's a pot, or from Day to Quapple. So from 3rd to 7th, there's still movement opportunity amongst those drivers, and those points could be crucial. As we mentioned in the Cup side, Sammy Smith, Parker Retzloff, a rare finish outside of the top 10, the way that he's been performing, but maintains top 10 position. He's 7 points ahead of Sam Mayer, who has underperformed and underachieved this year, I think, in general. Taylor Gray is another one, even though he does have a win. Brent Cruz, currently on the cutoff spot, 44 points ahead of William Sawalich, 48 ahead of Raja Caruth. And then you have Sieg and Alfredo, which is probably your cutoff of drivers that could possibly make it. Once you get past that, they would need a lot of help. Probably go out there and getting a win at Atlanta, Echo Park, whatever you want to call it, would be huge for anybody from behind Anthony Alfredo, the likes of Poole, Thompson, Clements, the Burtons, so on and so forth. So we'll go on from that, and we will move to IndyCar. That saw Pato O'Ward. It was a 1-2 start to the race for the Arrow McLaren team, but in the end, it was Pato. He started. They swapped positions. It was getting past lap cars. Ran green the whole entire race. They ran a 90-lap race at Mid-Ohio. Under green. It was really warm out there. Goes out and O'Ward gives himself that opportunity. Everyone was on a 3-stop strat, so there was opportunity to make some moves. But in the end, it was just one little error by Lundgaard in traffic and then pit road sequences where it swapped around lap 42. And from there, he was able to pull a gap. By the end, he was just managing the gap to his teammate Christian Lundgaard and managing the lappers, or cars that were going to be lapped, which were the likes of Mick Schumacher, Romain Grosjean, Stingray Robb, and then a little further up was Ericsson and Rossi. But so only 4 leaders. O'Ward, Lundgaard led 86 of the race's 90 laps. Will Power led 2. Newgarden led 2. Continues his recovery. Award and Lundgaard, your top two, swapped spots from their starting positions. Kyle Kirkwood got his first career permanent road course podium. Rinus VK inserting himself into the mix in free agency with a top 5 finish for Junkos Hollinger on a road course. Did start 6th, so he made the fast 6, so it was on merit. Palou started 8th, finished 5th. So a rare instance where Palou wasn't the absolute, best of it. Gets a 5th place finish. Doesn't lose so much ground to his rivals there. 3 of them finishing ahead of him. Power, Rasmussen, Malukas, 8th place. So best of the Penske's there. Newgarden 9th, and then Nolan Siegel rounds out the top 10. So all 3 McLaren cars make the top 10. And just comparing to other teams, you had 2 Penske's that were in the back end of the top 10. You had only 1 Ganassi car, 2 Andretti cars there. So other people who were in the news. I mean, Kyle Collette, who's definitely in the news, finished 11th, best of the rookies. Graham Rahal in his home race finished 12th. Rosenquist 13th. The Meyer Shank team not as good as they have been recently. On a weekend where there was announcements in regards to their organization. Multi-time winner at Mid-Ohio, Scott Dixon, 17th. And, Hauger was the only one that finished a lap down, which is crazy. Finished dead last. So, there's the silly season stuff, which we'll get into in a minute. But for Pato O'Ward, he's been looking for a spark, and I think went out there this weekend or past weekend, Josh, and was able to get that, knowing that they're getting into the busy part of their season here, starting with Markham in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for Pato O'Ward, kind of started the year. Finishing top 5, but having a handful of races where they were kind of just out of it, right? They finished 17th at Barber. They finished 18th at the Indianapolis road course. They finished 11th or 12th at Road America. So they're, for how good they've been running top 5 consistently, they've had just a handful of races where they just weren't there in front enough to really do something with that. But for Pato, obviously still the number 1 guy at McLaren, of course, and finally getting a win this season. It's been kind of weird, with him, his reputation. You'd think he'd be the guy challenging Alex Palou for this title here, but still a little bit back there. Still showing McLaren still has a little bit to gain here from this season so far. So Pato O'Ward finally getting a win here this year. Of course, him and his teammate Christian Lundgaard leading most of the race there. So really just kind of, as we like to say, kind of a benefit for the 2 McLaren drivers there. But for before we get into silly season stuff here, the rest of the field, Rinus VK, continuing to outperform the equipment. I think, he's been a guy that's always been able to outdrive whatever he was driving, I guess. And he's continuing to put up solid results there. Rasmussen, kind of surprising. We don't really see Rasmussen run that well on the road courses, kind of starting to get a reputation for being kind of an oval specialist so far. But for Rasmussen, top 10 there for sure. Newgarden also got the fastest lap for this race, so at least still has some semblance on road courses. Of course, still recovering from his injuries at the Indy 500 as well. So Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I mean, kind of, not much that really happened, of course, but, good late pass there to win the race there for Pato Award. Using the, corner at Mid-Ohio, kind of, going on the outside and then letting the track let him have the leverage of having the inside in the next corner there. So, yeah, good move for Award. Now he finally wins the race here this season in IndyCar. But yeah, with the main topic, yeah, for me was just the silly season stuff, of course. I think, it's not a surprise that Nolan Siegel, of course, finished 10th in this race, so not a bad deal for him here. But I think everybody kind of figured that he probably wouldn't return, and, just hasn't shown enough in IndyCar to, really, prove that he's deserving of the seat at McLaren compared to the performance of the 5 and the 7 cars, over the last 2 seasons, and just showing that he's kind of lost here in the series so far and everything. And, for what he was able to do, a couple years ago, remember Indianapolis 500 qualifying kind of got a reputation of just going for it, right? But, here at McLaren now going full time, just hasn't panned out the way we would have expected him to here. But, so not really surprised here that he's going away from them, but I think it's also just shocking that they're willing to let go of Lundgaard, who, of course, has actually outperformed Pato Award, honestly. Of course, last year didn't win a race, but had tons of podiums. First part of last year was finishing second to Alex Palou a ton, or on the podiums early on last year and everything. And even though he didn't win, was certainly up there in the point standings throughout the entire season. So now this year, third in points, and he's won twice. Won last week at Road America, won at the Indianapolis Road Course. Showing that he's done a better job than Pato Award. Now they're letting him go and everything. I think he even had an option too, but just shocking because I think he's shown a lot of potential here. I mean, you have really good potential here with 2 young drivers in Pato Award and Christian Lundgaard. And I mean, I get bringing in Dixon to kind of give him that like one last gasp at potentially being competitive, considering now he's kind of second now to Alex Palou here at Ganassi, so that's not surprising. But then bringing in Felix Rosenquist, won the Indy 500, has done pretty well for the 60, but I don't think he's as good as what maybe they're making him out to be, and everything. So, kind of seems to me it's kind of, this is, I don't want to say nepotism. It's not exactly nepotism, but they're all friends with Kanan, Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist, all used to be teammates at Chip Ganassi at one point. So, for Scott Dixon, yeah, it's good for him, but just like I don't understand getting rid of Christian Lundgaard when you have 2 young guys there that are really good. You should stick with it and build the team up. And you kind of see this at McLaren, just kind of revolving door. Other than Pato, it seems like the other 2 cars seem to have some kind of change every other year, and between the 3 drivers, there's just not enough consistency in the team.
Yeah, I mean I agree with what you're saying in general with McLaren. You have one of the best road racers in a championship that majority of the schedule is road courses, and he has probably been the first teammate that, given multiple years, because they didn't give Oliver Askew a real shot, and they were a much different team back then too. To have multiple years there and has been able to perform at or above Pato. And I say this as a Pato mark. So he needs a car a certain way. It's got a lot of the same vibes as Fish Lips with Red Bull. It's taken until, Isaac Hadjar now for somebody to be in that second seat and actually do something. So the notion that you're getting rid of somebody, and essentially the catch-all reason for why they made these moves. It's not that Nolan Siegel looks like Gilbert Gottfried and he sucks, which he does. And that Tony Kanaan just loves his money and loves the fact that he massages his balls or whatever, or his cue ball head or whatever it is. But he stinks. Like, okay, fine. Getting rid of him, saying, all right, fine, you want to bring Rosenquist back. He used to be there. He used to be a Ganassi guy. There's Ganassi connections with that, but he replaced Kanaan there or whatever. He just won Indy. Okay. But I don't think that really does anything for anything, Rosenquist. Other than he's a nice guy and he has shown that he can do some work at times at different racetracks. But it's not consistent. He won one race at Road America. He won his second race this year. The first win was 6 years ago. That was his second win of his career. He's on the older side. You have Christian Lundgaard, who, if you put Ryan Hunter-Reay and you let Ryan Hunter-Reay work with him, being the oval master that he was for so many years, you could have probably made him into an oval racer. Now, if you're going to tell me you're going to go and make the splash and bring Scott Dixon in because it's a last hurrah, but I think there's other things, the World Endurance Championship, IMSA opportunity, whatever, with the prototype program, having ambassador kind of role within the organization, being a part of, building up that team. He's fucking Scott Dixon, man. Sir Scott Dixon. He's one of the greatest IndyCar drivers of all time. So if he's readily available, which for whatever reason Ganassi made him available, I think there's connections in the sense of what Jimmy Johnson moved his wife and kids to London for a few years. That's how he built some of the connections more with Dario and Marino Franchitti and other people that are in the motorsports realm on the sports car side and on the Indy cars and even Formula One. But now he's brought everybody back because he owns Legacy. He's the main guy at Legacy. But in terms of what Dixon wants to do with his career, I think the reason, other than the big boat of money that they gave, the boatload of money they gave him, was the sports car opportunity. And to be able to race Le Mans, post IndyCar career, opportunities to win overall at the Rolex and Sebring again. I think that's really the piece. Because this notion that you're going all in, you want to win Indy, is great. But Penske is there. MSR now is showing that they're capable. They've won 2 of the last 5 Indy 500s. Penske's never going to go away, whatever. Yeah, McLaren has a chance. Ganassi's not going away. And I am quite intrigued to see who they're going to hire to have to take that mantle up of driving that 9 car. Now, granted, I think certain things are working in the favor of whoever were to take that car. One is Pelot's far and beyond the best driver in the series. He's on his way to a friggin' 5th championship. He's insane. You have Kiffin Simpson, who's he's a seat filler. Whatever. So you're coming into a 9 car that has generally not been at the same level as the 10. You're also coming into the 9 car knowing that it's like they're going to be like, oh, you're replacing one of the greatest drivers of all time. But in the years, like people who come into Ganassi and are able to perform immediately, like Pelot, that usually takes off and is goes to where it has. Zanardi was another. Juan Pablo Montoya was another. Those are guys that they hit the ground running. To me, like we talk about silly season, Marcus Armstrong signed back with MSR. He's going to be their lead driver in the 60 car next year. There's a greater involvement with Honda and Acura within that organization because of the extra car they're going to get here with the new charter system and the new power units and cars and all that crap they got going on. So that team has a Ganassi connection. They're essentially the fourth and fifth cars for Ganassi going on there. So that's a good move for Marcus Armstrong. He got close. He still hasn't won a race, but he's getting there. Signing Rosenquist, he's a nice guy, but it does nothing for me. I don't get what that does for anybody, other than because he's friends with all these people. He's friends with Pato and he's friends with Scott. Okay, great. So he's basically Hinch. No offense to Hinch, but that's literally what Hinch was by the time he got to the end of his driving career in IndyCar. He was friends with Michael and Mario and Marco. So he got a ride in a fifth car that was god awful. And then once the money ran out, they're like, sorry, Hinch, you can go to TV now. And that's what he did. It doesn't do anything. Dixon, does he still have something? Absolutely. I do believe he does have something. And I think being in a different environment, you might get glimpses. You might get flashes. And I think his connection with Jimmy is a part of it. Of the fact that Jimmy started going downward and they waited too long to make the change with the crew chief. And then the cars changed and all these other things changed. Like him and Chad were together for they almost broke up before it actually took off. Then they stayed too long together and it got away from both of them. Dixon is trying to get ahead of that, even though, to be fair, he's kind of been in that mode already. Yes, he's been in the top 5 in points. Yes, he's been able to win a race and, do all that. But he's not outperforming Palou. And that's the problem. Do I think he's going to outperform Pato O'Ward? No. On a week-to-week basis, no. I do think that he's going to push Pato to be better. And I think that's the scary part for Ganassi. That's to make Pato O'Ward better, to work on things that he's weaker in, to go against Alex Palou. That is his worst nightmare. It's like it would be if they could have that rivalry in IndyCar. It would be the modern day, like Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, because of how good both of those guys are. And that's what IndyCar should want. So I think Dixon's greatest benefit, other than maybe he gets a couple more wins, maybe he goes out and gets that elusive second 500, is what he does with Pato. And then I don't know what they're going to do with that third car. It's what it is. There's plenty of young guns that are out there. If you told me you were going to take a swing at Caio Collet and said you're going to buy him and bring his money into the table, I could bring him to the forefront. Okay. If you're telling me you brought Rinus VK in, I get that. If you told me you were going to bring in Linus Lundqvist, I would have been all in on that. Because a guy only had 1 year, has no budget, he can drive the wheels off of anything, and he's been sitting on the sidelines. You tell me you want to get Dennis Hauger, you go and buy him out of his Andretti contract, and you say you want Dennis Hauger. I could get any of those. I don't get Felix Rosenquist. I don't care that he just won the Indy 500. He's won 2 races in like 8 years in IndyCar, whatever the fuck it is. At some point, like, what you are. He's not even at like that Jamie McMurray level. Like he's like, I don't really know what comparison I can make for him. But now Who goes to the 9? Is it Renus? Is it Lundqvist? Is it
Lundgaard.
Kyle Collette? Lundgaard. I mean, I think everyone's thinking Lundgaard. But, I don't know if Ganassi wants to. I mean, I think in a lot of ways PNC is going to play a part in this. And if they can keep PNC, I think they want somebody who has a little bit of a personality, a little more spark. I think that's where Renus comes into play. If they want to have someone with a budget, Lundgaard has a budget, Collette has a budget. If Ganassi, I think, wanted to really reset and give himself more of a long game, he calls Linus and says, "Hey, you were here with me a couple of years ago. Yes, this is Dixon's old car, but somebody had to take over the 10 after Dario did what he did in that car, and we can add, like the late Dan Weldon, others over time. It's like Zanardi and or what do you call Vassar? Vassar won the title in '96 after building his way up in his career, and then for the next 3 years, the 4 car was the best car on the circuit, with Zanardi for 2 years and then Juan Pablo Montoya. So I think if Ganassi was playing the long game, he goes Linus Lundqvist. I mean, you can make that argument for Renus VK, but he's been in the series for so long, it's crazy. If you gave Renus VK a shot in that 9 car, I think it'd be really scary, because of how good he really is. And he's never really been in top flight equipment. I think that would be a scary proposition for the rest of the field, relative to his talent and ability. Harry Lunatic, his countryman, of course, drove for Ganassi many, many years ago. I think that's the person to sign right there. I think Linus Lundqvist should get a gig somewhere, whether it's Coin, whether it's RLL, but they usually need budgets. Some of these other back end teams need budgets. The Meyer Shank team doesn't need a budget. I think if they were smart, it would make sense for them to make that move for Linus Lundqvist. I think Renus VK would be the guy. I think that would be the call to go run for Ganassi, and give himself a real shot. Pressure would be on, of course, but nobody expects him to go out there and wipe the floor with Alex Palou. It's Alex Palou's team now. So it's like, okay. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's very intriguing, I gotta say. Andretti, of course, could have a seat open, because of Ericsson, though he brings a budget. Hauger's out there. Dan Towers is a trillionaire or whatever the fuck. He can fund. He's already funding 1 car with Power. They could fund 2 cars. It's not that big of a deal for him. Wally World is funding Kyle Kirkwood. So I think if they wanted to take a swing at a young guy, young driver, a Lights or Next driver, they could do that too. If Enzo Fittipaldi, which we're going to mention in the roundup, is able to win the championship, I think he's fair game for that opportunity. But plenty to look at. They'll be at Nashville in a couple of weeks. I jumped the gun in terms of Markham. They'll be at Nashville, then they'll race Portland once. They'll have Nashville will have a couple more weeks off, and then basically run the season out. 5 weeks and six races in 5 weeks, including the Maggot 500 around the National Mall. They're right in the middle. So we'll see how it goes. Palou, 56-point lead on Kirkwood. Lundgaard is in third, 65 back. Malukas in fourth, 66 back. And then Pato O'Ward, last driver within 100 points, 94 back. Then a pod between Newgard and Rosenquist, McLaughlin, separated by 8 points. Then another group starting with Dixon in 9th, all the way to Will Power in 14th, which is 15 points. You can count Kiffin Simpson in there. He's 30 back. And then Rossi, 34. It's 20, 25, 45 points to Root Beer Floathead. And then in the rookie battle, Hauger leads Colette by 16 points. And Mick Schumacher there, tied with Stingray Robb now for last amongst the regulars. All right, so we'll move to Formula One. Was the British Grand Prix. And Ferrari, in the sprint race, Kimi Antonelli goes out there, passes Lewis, who qualifies on pole for the sprint, and passes him for the win there. But in the race itself, you had Charles Leclerc go and get the victory over Woody Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Isaac Hadjar, the Toro Rossos of Lawson Lindblad, Bortoleto, Colapinto, and Pierre Gasly giving double points for Alpine. Oscar Piastri ended up 11th. Kimi Antonelli had issues, it went off and had issues, finished 15th, so he lost a ton of ground there. And Verstappen crashed out of the race. He had Albon and Hulkenberg who fell out earlier. Antonelli had a 5-second time, but it didn't matter. Sainz 1 penalty lap for overtaking a safety car. Wow, that is pretty bad. In terms of, in sprint, go back sprint qualifying, Hamilton beat Antonelli by 11 thousandths of a second, led him in the race, but then ended up finishing second, Lando finishing third, and Russell fourth. Leclerc was fifth. In actual qualifying, Kimi Antonelli gets the pole over Leclerc and Hamilton, Russell fourth, Hadjar fifth, Lando in sixth, Verstappen, Piastri here. But then in the race, as I mentioned, the Ferraris were able to go out there and they had pace. Leclerc looks like he made the right adjustments and was able to take advantage of the issues for Mercedes, get out there, get that lead. It was going to be a Ferrari 1-2, but they pitted Hamilton. They double stacked, but the fact is Hamilton didn't have enough of a gap on George Russell under the safety car, and Russell passed him, and that was the end of the race. So that's a mistake by the team there, losing out on those crucial points. But for Ferrari, they get a double podium, gain 10 points on, or gain more than 10 points on Mercedes, 22 on Mercedes. Lando Norris, defending world champion at home, gets a top 5 finish there. And for Leclerc, gets Ferrari their 250th win in the Formula One World Championship, gets his season basically back on track, and we're a couple races away from the summer break. Got 2 more races to go before that, and the game, it's very close right now. points wise after Antonelli's problems. For the top three, Leclerc goes and gains some ground, but you gotta give credit to Leclerc. He'd been struggling in recent races, and he went out there this past weekend at Silverstone, had one of the classics, and got the job done for the Scuderia, Josh.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc finally winning a race here this season, and yeah, significant for Ferrari. 250 wins here. So yeah, same weekend as the United States celebrates its 250th birthday. Ferrari gets its 250th Formula One win, so pretty significant there. But yeah, I mean, obviously at this race, I mean, we think that Kimi Antonelli would win, but just like we talked about in NASCAR with Tyler Reddick going off the hot start and kind of cooling off, perhaps maybe the same is beginning to happen here to Kimi Antonelli here, and disaster race for him, especially late. Looking like it was going to be a set to win, but of course, problems with his wing, and causing the handling to go away, and I guess the wing failed and fixed itself to the front suspension there, so couldn't help the car turn in the corners, and he fell down to 10th, and then because I guess he went off track more than 5 times, or more than 3 times, got a 5-second penalty, and that dropped him to 16th. So no points there for Antonelli, which could be huge because I mean he did get 10th originally, so could have been an opportunity for 1 point there. So that could be crucial here later in the year, and certainly it opens the door for George Russell to close the gap now with only a 25-point lead. So just down to a full race here for George Russell to his teammate there. So gonna be interesting to see here with Spa coming up in a couple weeks, and then they go into the summer break there. So could see a points change here soon if Antonelli has more problems here. But interesting to see that they did not restart the race there with the issue after Max dropped off the race there and failed to finish. Seemingly seems like they were going to have a 1-lap shootout, which I guess would have been interesting with this new car. We haven't really seen that here yet, but could have been an interesting deal there, especially with Charles Leclerc on cold tires. Potentially maybe concern about him being able to hold the lead there on a hypothetical final restart there. So yeah, for Leclerc, I mean, it's good win there, but then also for guys like Lewis Hamilton, and of course they were anticipating that they were going to get another shot at it, but that's why they pitted, but then of course they didn't. So very interesting decision making there from the race control. So yeah, it's very interesting there, and kind of an interesting development there with Antonelli as well. But yeah, Max, of course, DNF here, so it's again not a great season for Verstappen here, and some of the rumors now starting to circulate now that it's no longer mathematically possible for him to be in the points, or not in the points, but in the top 3 going into summer break. There's some people online starting some rumors about his contract clause, where he could potentially exercise his option to become a free agent, I think, if he's not within a certain points position by the summer break there. So could be a interesting move here and silly season for F1. If Verstappen's points position doesn't improve and they automatically trigger an option there and see where he goes, because he's not been happy in F1 really this year, and of course this car just hasn't worked that well for him like it has in previous years. So yeah, for Verstappen, I mean, I saw somebody Photoshop him in a McLaren uniform, so that's very funny there. But I don't know if they would get rid of Piastri or anybody to sign Verstappen, even if he is Verstappen. So Yeah, very interesting development there with potential silly season stuff there. But yeah, Charles Leclerc fourth in points now, so still way back from his teammate Lewis Hamilton, 39 points back. So yeah, for Leclerc, it's been a good season for him, I guess, but still a little ways to go for him to get to third, and guess now a little bit more interesting here in the points battle for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, for the top three, there's a little more intrigue now because of the Antonelli non-point score. 25 for the 25-point lead on Woody, then 32 on Hamilton. If Leclerc can string a couple of more races together, of course, he's been good at Spa over the years, was won there. Opportunity there. I mean, in terms of what you said with Fish Lips, I mean, they do have Nicholas Soloff, Lindblad. I think they'd probably move him up. I think that would be the move if they were to lose Max. I mean, McLaren, it's that whole thing. I think I made that comment to another friend of mine on the socials, and how we're just talking about how Tony Kanaan and Zach Brown are on this compensation mission to go and get these big names. Like, okay, I want to get Scott Dixon in IndyCar. Now I want to get Fish Lips in Formula One. What are you going to do? You're going to dump Oscar Piastri? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think Oscar Piastri would end up going the other way. I think Red Bull would have to go and sign him. It would, instead of bringing up one of their own, they'd have to sign him. He's too good. It's interesting what Fish Lips, he wants to do sports cars, and the Ford connection is there with their hypercar program coming along, the LMDH program. So he has an out there. Ford, albeit they're not a full factory effort, he could go rallying just like his dad. I think he, of course, loves a GT3 format. So, I mean, the Mustang is there if he wanted to do that. So, I mean, the dude has all the options in the world. He's got more money than he'll ever need. If he leaves Formula One, it would be tough. But, if the guy ain't happy, let's get people who want to actually be in the race. I think he had more fun in the Lego race, which they allowed a bunch of, they made 22 Lego go-karts. Fred Alonso won the race while going and making adjustments to Valtteri Bottas's front wing, I think. Bunch of them got beached, including Ben Suliam, when they were trying to cut that little loop there to get onto the Wellington Straight. Lewis was just recording content, I think, on his phone. Somebody made a comment about Woody aura farming. What is it? Sainz jumped on Lando's car and rode with him. So I think there was more fun had in the Lego race, which is 2 for 2. More fun in the Lego race than the actual race that took place. I mentioned the points there. Leclerc is 11 points ahead of Lando, and then Piastri's 6 points out of Fish Lips. So little pods there, drivers 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th, 6th, 7th. Then you had Hadjar's 10 points out of Gasly, and 13 ahead of Lawson. Lindblad in 11th, and then Bierman, Colapinto, last drivers on double-digit points. Teams Constructors Championship is 8, and then 12, 78-point lead on Mercedes over Ferrari. Then 21, 20, 76 on McLaren. So huge gaps there, and then 51 between McLaren and Red Bull. The best battle in the constructors is Alpine and Toro Rosso, only separated by a point. Haas in 7, 10 points at a Williams. Then Audi, Aston, and then Cadillac hasn't scored a point thus far. All right, so we will move into the roundup. In F2 last weekend, saw Nicholas Soloff get a sweep. He's won 3 consecutive races. He was a feature race winner at Austria as well. So credit to him. The drive calendar and results. Move into that. So yeah, they'll be at Spa, and then they'll be at Budapest before you take time off for the summer break. Soloff, Mini, Villa Gomez, your podium. Kushmaini was 4th. Herta was 15th. Then in the feature race, Soloff, Villa Gomez, Kushmaini, your podium. Herta was 16th. And then, Fittipaldi, Sebastian Montoya had issues. Points, Soloff has a 17-point lead in Gabrielli, Mini, Camara, and Dunn only separated by 2 points. Solid weekend for mine. He moves them to 6th. Herta hasn't scored a point in 5 races. Seb Montoya hasn't scored in 3. So then in Formula 3 was Ugo Ugochukwu continuing to lead the points. Won the sprint race in dominant fashion. Yadiz in the feature race. So Slater Ugochukwu gets a podium in the feature. So then it's a feature, then the sprint race, Ugochukwu over David and Teofel Nile. The standings heading into Spa, Ugochukwu's 18 points out of Slater, and then there's a huge gap there, 44 points to Teofel Nile. I'm going to see some of these other drivers that, Brad Benavides ran out of budget and left. There's been some driver changes already now. There's a few drivers that haven't scored points that have run the whole season, so that's pretty lame there. But Ugochukwu, the American from New York, trying to do what he can to get himself through to Formula 2 by winning the Formula 3 championship. The F1 Academy results saw Feldmeyer in the first race get the win, and then in the feature race saw the reverse grid race was Emma Feldmeyer, and then Alicia Palmowski wins the feature race. So the points, Palmowski, it's 30-point lead on Feldmeyer. And then Gadaman is 58 back. Bruce, Lloyd, Prescott. They're the wild card. Badig, who qualified on pole, got 22 total points this past weekend. Somebody who's probably going to end up being in the series next year. There's only 4 drivers that haven't scored a point, and 2 of them have raced the whole year, Kosterman and Jay Jaquette. But best of the Americans is Peyton Westcott in 6th. She's only 3 points out of 4th and 14 out of 3rd, so opportunity for her. So we'll see how that goes. Formula E, get to the Degrassi. Okay, so the results of Shanghai race 1 saw Pascal Verline win from pole over Antonio Felix da Costa, Jake Dennis. Then Luca Degrassi, Jean-Eric Verne, Joel Eriksson in race 2. Verline was 4th. Drogovic qualified on pole for Andretti. The standings heading into the last few rounds of their season. Verline only up by 9 points on Mitch Evans. Then you have Roland in 3rd, 3 points out of Antonio Felix da Costa, 5 points out of Jake Dennis, 11 ahead of Eduardo Mortara. They're in 6th. Teams, Jaguar is a 6-point lead on Porsche for the constructors. Then Andretti and Mahindra are 3rd and 4th in their own mini battle. The manufacturers is 50 points for Porsche above Jaguar. Then MotoGP has been busy in terms of rider announcements. Marquez goes and re-signs for Ducati, and his teammate will be Pedro Costa. Marco Bezzecchi re-signed with Aprilia, and his good buddy from the VR46 camp, Pecco Bagnaia, the former 3-time world champion, will be his teammate. So all Italian team at Aprilia. Grassini signs Joan Mir, the former world champion who crashes a lot, and Danny Holgado from Moto2. Johan Zarco, the one rider, signed with LCR. There's a couple of riders that are rumored to go to Honda. Yamaha has signed former world champion Jorge Martin and Ayagura, who won recently. KTM Factory will have Alex Marquez moving from Grassini and Fabio Di Gianantonio moving from VR46. So right now there are 10 riders that are still open. The Grassini, drummer Daniel Holgado, and then to be confirmed. Once others has left to be announced. Valentino is the 100 top place in the World Championship standings of the rider. It's a worth my doctor. Are you sure you don't want to stay? In Trackhouse, Red Bull, hand, Honda's, okay. So then, there are rumors for some of the riders coming in to MotoGP. There's going to be at least 4 from Moto2 coming into MotoGP, along with some of the movement that's going on, relatively speaking. They'll be racing at the Sachsenring this coming weekend. WEC will be at Sao Paulo for the first race post Le Mans. Supercars will be at Townsville. IMSA will be at Mosport, which is LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD will be there. Then you got a couple of weeks before NHRA comes back, so don't worry about that. And then World Superbikes at Donington, great course for the World Superbikes. All right, so done with that. Let us move forward to the picks. So we can go with trucks first. We'll go with that. So then NASCAR trucks at Lime Rock. I'll go. So then I went first last week. So Josh, you get first dibs here on the trucks at Lime Rock Park. I don't think there's any issues of failed to qualify. 33 for 36, so a short field. You're gonna have Thomas Annunziata, Jersey boy, driving the 1 for Tricon. Jackson Lee back in the number 2 for Rayum. Graham Doyle, I'm assuming, is Dan Doyle's son, of Danka, of Dex Imaging. So making his truck debut. Connor Mozak driving the 7 for Spire, won in the Chicago ARCA race. Corey over there. You got, let's see who else. Colin Brown back in the Colleague 25. Ben Mayer for Nice. Landon Lewis back in the 45 for Nice. Wesley Slimp in the 62. Louis Foster making his truck debut for FRE. Kligerman driving the number 77 for Spire. That's interesting. And then, the other regulars. So 33 for 36, no issues, failing to qualify. Who do you have going out there and getting the job done?
Yeah, I'm going to take Lane Riggs here. Lane Van Rigsbergen, as he nicknamed himself a couple weeks ago at San Diego. So, yeah, I think he'll win. And yeah, I'll go with Parker Kligerman. He's also former road course runner in the Cups or the Truck Series back Mid-Ohio a few years ago.
Yeah, that's strong. You probably took the 2 best choices. I'll go Caden Honeycutt because he's driving that Tricon 11. It's really fast. He seems to always be up in the top 3, top 5. That I think is a solid possibility. And then in terms of my wild card, I will go with. I'm going to go with Landon Lewis. So pick Caden Honeycutt. Is that how it's spelled? Yeah. Caden Honeycutt to win, and Landon Lewis wild card. So now it's the O'Reilly Series at Echo Park, Atlanta. Bring up that list, the entry list for that one. Focused Health 38 for 38. Smithley back into 0 for SS Greenlight. Quapple driving the 1 for JRM. Jake Finch racing the 9 for JRM. I don't know if that is his debut, Jake Finch. I'm
I think
not
he
sure.
didn't he race for the 17 last year? But debut for JRM.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that sounds about right. At least one race. That sounds right. Go through some of these others. Jordan Anderson driving for himself in his number 32. Nick Wheat in the 42. Carson Ware driving the 47 for Harmon. Nobody listed in the 53 for Gase. Gase driving the 55 for himself, probably Sarn parking. Nick Sanchez back in the 87, trying to defend his win from last year. Rajak Ruth in the 88. Mason Maggio in the 91. Leland Honeyman, 92. I will go with I think it's a pretty straightforward bet here for Hank Hill, but I also could say I can make that bet for Jesse Love, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with Jesse Love to win, get his first win of the season, and then my wild card choice, because it's definitely in play. I am going to say this one actually is a tough one. I'll just go Jake Finch. Why not? All right, Josh. How about you?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna say that Austin Hill always knows how to win here. I want to go with another driver, but it's easier to just go with Austin Hill. And wild card for me, I will go with where's trying to look. I'll go with Anthony Alfredo as my wild card this week. Is he? I didn't see where he's in standings. Is he good in the standings for wild card, or is he too far? He's not the kind of.
I feel like it's close. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna check just out of curiosity.
He's 16th in the standings right now.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna use the owners. That's should do it. Do it by drivers. Counting crews. If you count crews, then it's one thing. That's 28. So that's 27, 14th. Yeah, he's eligible.
Okay.
So yeah, that works. I honestly think anybody at this, if we wanted to get really crazy with it, I think anybody that's behind 12th at the moment could be considered a wild card, because I really don't buy the viability of anybody. I don't buy Sawalich. Raja is jumping around between cars, and he's a rookie, so that's really not ideal. But I think for fairness sake, making it a little further back is better. And Alfredo, one of us usually picks him, so that's just kind of a consistent thing. What does Tate Fogelman say?
Tate Fogelman says that Anthony Alfredo's teammate, Parker Retzloff, goes out and gets a win here at Atlanta, which, it's not far off, honestly.
No, not at all. Retzloff to win, which would be pretty cool. First win for him last year. Nick Sanchez got his first career win there, so would be nice to see if that were to come off. I'll move to the Cup Series. It's the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta at Echo Park Speedway, whatever. 38 for 40. So McLeod in this week, Fincham in the 66. They had to withdraw last week, not having any sponsorship, so they're going to race at Atlanta. Otherwise, everything else is essentially the same. It's just a case of sponsorships on some of these cars compared to their usual schemes. Yeah, Josh, you go first, and then I'll go, and then Tate Fogelman time. Who do you have for the Cup Series race at Atlanta?
I'm gonna go with. Yeah, this is tough because this is honestly a huge wild card here, but because anybody could win. But I'm gonna go with Christopher Bell. I think he's close, and he's been up there before here at Atlanta. So yeah, we'll go with him. My wild card, I guess, this week. Look at the standings real quick. I want to say, guess it counts as a wild card, but I will go with Ross Chastain.
Yeah, he's outside of the top half, so it's not. He's definitely eligible, and he's run at a level that would be akin to having to be a wild card selection this year. For me, I am gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Hurricane Hocevar to get another restrictor plate win, or tapered spacer win. After he finished up front there, he had a great weekend at Atlanta earlier this year. So I'll take him as my winner, and then Richard as my wild card. Who is a known super speedway racer over his career. So Hurricane Hocevar, Richard, my picks, and what does the TFA say?
The algorithm says that it says that Ryan Prix picks up his first career win here in the Cup Series.
Wow, that would be something. His luck on super speedways over the years has not been very good. I think he's made more highlight reels for wrecking in the Cup Series than he has for all the wins that he's had in his NASCAR career altogether. So that would be a pretty big deal for him. He won the Clash earlier this year at Bowman Gray, but would be a first Cup win. And there's been a few drivers already this year, Gibbs and Hocevar, who have won their first career races. So would be a third driver this year to get a first career win. But we'll see what happens with that. All right, Josh, let us know what went on in iRacing and gaming and your win in the Firecracker 400 in the sim segment.
Yeah, Firecracker 400 win. Yeah, that was pretty good. Obviously, being able to do that on Thursday night, 10 p.m. slot on iRacing there. Yeah, I mean, really, really great run there. Started in 30th, didn't qualify. Had some technical issues, so I couldn't put in a lap in. But honestly, I was like, doesn't matter. I mean, be able to get up there and everything, and it's exactly what he did. Just tried to save tires, run conservatively, and hold on to the draft, as much as possible, and it's exactly what we did. Missed all the wrecks. Was able to, you know, time when the wrecks were gonna happen and everything, and just, you know, held my line and made it through. So, yeah, lots of chaos, honestly. 11 cautions, pulling up the results from that, but 11 cautions in that race that I ran Thursday night. So, yeah, quite a lot of things happening there. Yeah, guys up front losing it, getting loose and overcorrecting, and, you know, causing, you know, get other people taken out and stuff. You know, a lot of the top guys that were in the top 10 around me got taken out, so kind of thinned out the field quite a bit, and was able to, you know, just play defense the last, you know, 30 laps or so of that race. So trying to pull up the results there. Yeah, led 49 laps, led the most laps on the evening there. Yeah, 11 cautions, 46 lead changes there, so 33 laps of caution for 11 cautions. So yeah, it was ended up having, I think, yeah, a really good finish. Yeah, only 5 cars on the lead lap, and everybody else was down 2 more laps or so. So yeah, very classic 1980s style finish here in NASCAR, in the Cup Series and everything. And yeah, certainly, you know, after halfway, I mean, kind of, we had a bit of a long run there and managed to stay in the top 5. Then some more chaos happened, and, you know, about a good half of the top 10 got taken out in one wreck off of turn 4 and everything. And then, you know, it was just me the last, you know, handful of laps there, 30 laps to go, just maintaining the lead and trying to, you know, keep it and everything, and then get down to the last 10 laps, you know, trying to just keep the lead and make sure I maintain my gap. And, you know, one thing that I noticed during the race is that the line, you know, the line shifted towards the middle, towards kind of the middle high groove Daytona, and so kind of used that to my advantage, keeping the speed up, because I noticed that, you know, if you use the bottom line, you know, which, you know, traditionally is the fast way around Daytona, you know, especially off of turn 4, turn 2, as the tires wore off, you really just lost grip and would have to back out of it to stop from getting loose or getting too tight off of those corners. So, but if you ran the middle, you know, the middle line, you know, you could kind of keep the momentum up and just, you know, maintain the throttle and maintain the power, because you would have momentum coming off the corner, and if anybody tried to pass you on the inside, well, they would still need that grip to be able to hold on, and if they didn't have that grip, they would just slide right, you know, behind you. So, you know, final couple of laps there, somebody was able to keep up with me, and they passed me at one point with like 8 laps to go, but then I was just able to, you know, kind of use the high line to keep up with them, and then he got loose off turn 4, and then I was just able to take the lead right back from him there. And then 2 laps to go, you know, started to get a little sketchy with 2 laps to go, and then he actually got alongside of me going into turn 1, and then I let him go for a minute, and then I was able to you know, get back alongside of him, and then I accidentally doored him off of turn 2 on 2 laps ago, and then, you know, turn 4, I mean, you saw in the clip that I sent you, you know, got really tight off of turn 4, and then, you know, almost lost it off of turn 4 and doored him again. And I didn't mean it, but, you know, I'm trying to hold on to the lead there. And then, you know, we go into turn 1 again, you know, just using the top line as the kind of as a defense, because I knew that he wouldn't have enough drive off of the corner to really get alongside of me. And then, you know, again, turn 4, middle corner, he got a nose ahead, but I knew that as long as I got back to the gas, he, you know, and held my line, he wasn't able to have the drive off of the corner to beat me back to the line. So as soon as I got by him, I knew I had the race won, you know, coming on off the tri-oval there. So then afterwards, like, he was like, oh, good win, but, you know, like, not really the way you wanted to. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, he's like, well, you hard blocked me with 10 to go, and then you know, you got alongside me and you know, hit me in the door. I'm like, you know, well, that wasn't intentional. Like, I'm just trying to hold on to the lead, with the dooring. I mean, I guess, yeah, I did hard block him, and I guess maybe I didn't need to, but, I knew that, with the way the tires can wear off and stuff, like I knew I had to hold on to the lead and everything. So, um, I feel like I drove a great race, managed to, the last half of the field there, and then, anytime I needed to challenge up for the lead, I was able to do it, everything. So yeah, it was good. I have a personal opinion about the 87 cars. I mean, I think they say there's no difference. It's just a appearance, but I'm pretty sure the Fords are faster on the speedways and everything. And it makes sense because they were faster in real life in the 87 cars, but compared to the Chevy Monte Carlos and the Buicks, and I forgot what the other make that they run. The Oldsmobile Cutlass is what they run as well. So I think those cars are a little bit more stable, but I mean, for me, I've always noticed that the Fords have just a little bit more pull at the end of the straights and everything, and they're a little bit more aerodynamic, of course, but I've noticed a lot of times I end up being the only Ford in the top 10, and I know the Chevys seems like the Chevys and the GM cars tend to have a little bit more handle in the corner, especially as the tires wear out. So the Fords there's always a little bit of instability with the Fords as the tires wear out and everything. But I was able to keep the lead here and win the race. So first win, oval win here, 2026. Last time I won an oval last year, actually October in the 87 cars at Talladega. So obviously we've said that's a specialty of mine. I'd really like running those cars, and it's definitely I like the reason why I like them is because you have more of that individual racing more than the pack racing mentality. It's the same reason why I like the IndyCar too, is like you have the draft that can help you, but it's not like you're gridlock in a pack like your typical NASCAR Cup or even Xfinity or O'Reilly cars and truck cars where you're just gridlock in a pack and you gotta work together and everything to stay together and all that stuff. This is definitely more controlling your own destiny, so to speak, here. So that's why I like running it, and of course was able to pick up the win here. So all for PDF file, as they say here on iRacing, because they give you a PDF certificate of the win. So I don't know, maybe I have to start printing this out, frame it or something, and put it on the wall. That'd be cool. So with the Indy 500 one and the Rolex 24 second place in LMP2 class. So yeah, we'll see what I do here. But iRacing here this week, I think they've got Atlanta, of course, for the truck series or for the Cup and the O'Reilly series. Trying to look what else they got on here. I don't know what IndyCar is doing here this week. IndyCar Oval Series at New Hampshire this week. The Gen 4 Cup at Chicagoland. The 87 car series this week is at Richmond. Interesting short track racing there. Sports cars. I think 24 hours of Spa special edition race is coming up soon. So I wonder if Max Verstappen will try to run that somehow. But I think that's coming up. That's the big event upcoming for iRacing on sports cars here. So the stream, of course, at USailor2 on Twitch. Posted it also on YouTube, on my personal YouTube, just the final last two laps there. So you can look at that. Josh Huffine on YouTube, I think, is how I have that on there. So you can look that up. Might be at JP Huffine 88 on there on YouTube if you want to look at that. The whole race for the Firecracker 400 is on there. Probably have to clip that and put that on YouTube so it doesn't go away and everything. So put that on there maybe. But I think the next special event for NASCAR is the Brickyard 400, which of course is at the end of the month here for NASCAR. So it'll be around that time. So maybe hopefully try to do that one, hopefully, and see how that goes. Great racing on iRacing, got a win. So it's always good. You can again follow at Twitch TV Silver 2. Go on there, follow my Twitch and see the streams there for iRacing streams. And then my Twitter page at JP Huffine. Go in there, follow me on Twitter, of course. The photography page at Josh Huffine Photography. Follow me on there. I'm going to start posting some more photos from the Rolex last time I was there. Working on getting those finished up and everything. And of course, you can follow us YouTube at the Gripster Podcast on YouTube, and follow us on there and see all our latest shows and all that stuff. So yeah, good week here, I guess. You know, the only thing negative that happened was the U.S. losing to Belgium last night in soccer. So unfortunate there, but otherwise, yeah, great weekend with 250th of the United States, and you know, of course, the Firecracker 400 win. Great racing at Chicagoland as well. So yeah, it's all for me, I guess. You know, been a great week, and you know, hopefully the racing here this weekend at Atlanta and otherwise is pretty good too.
Yeah, we can go out there and get another one, but at least run well, do your thing. No, you can. Congrats again on that win, and thanks for, as always, for being a good friend, teammate, brother, co-host, the whole bit there. Appreciative to you for all the work you do on the back end when we do the show, and then also on the YouTube page, the Gripster Podcast YouTube page. You can find us at you can find me at GSP 1428 on YouTube as well. Audio feed will be there. It'll also appear on philipgmatthew.com. On Instagram, I'm PGMGSP28. PGMatthew28 on Twitter. And then podbean.com, our host site. So like, comment, subscribe. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what you like and what you may want more of, what may you want less of, etc., etc. We will be back next week with episode 323 of the GSP to cover the racing at Atlanta Echo Park Speedway. We'll preview Nashville for IndyCar. Let's preview the Belgian Grand Prix for Formula One, and everything else that went on in the world of racing. And as we lead towards football, start talking about that and maybe a little more as well. For Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.